Hey YouTube, what's up? Thanks for tuning in. The new SkyRC B6neo charger. Perfect charger for microcrawler LiPos. Why do I say this? Clickbait? No. This charger is a perfect charger. Super tiny. And for charging smaller LiPos, most of you will not even need an extra power supply to use it. A top charger with a ton of options, I will show you later. Not a large charger with built-in power supply, which I do not like anyway. Not a charger which you have to plug to a power supply or a large LiPo to use, but you can if you want. And that way you can also charge large LiPos with this B6neo charger with up to 200 watts for this tiny charger. Check the size out. Compared to one of my all-time favorite chargers, the ISTT SC608, that's already super tiny. That's my field charger, and the B6neo is even smaller, significantly smaller and stronger, 150 watts versus 200 watts. What a tiny little charger. A perfect charger for microcrawler LiPos, way better than the USB chargers that come with the ready-to-run sets, and a perfect first charger to buy for guys who are new to the hobby, play with small models and use small LiPos. It's fantastic. I really love it. I really mean this, and this is the only reason why I say this. This USB-C port, USB-C in, the B6neo can be powered by PD, power delivery, a USB-C cable and a PD power supply. That's awesome. But of course it can also be powered by a normal power supply or a LiPo battery, as most normal chargers that do not have a built-in power supply and are powered by AC. Here's the XT60 port for this. But this is not the point. That's nothing special. This USB-C port is the special thing, and that's why I'm so excited. And only this USB-C port is the reason why I bought the SkyRC B6neo about 1 month ago. Even if I do already have and had way more than 20 real LiPo chargers plus countless chargers that came with a ready-to-fly or ready-to-run set, and I give away chargers regularly. I'm super happy with my chargers, mainly with my ISTT chargers, my SC620, my all-time favorite for charging larger LiPos or many of my Heli LiPos in parallel, and the SC608. I love those. But none of those chargers does have PD. So what is PD? The genius thing of PD, what is it? Most of you will know PD. For those who do not yet know, PD means power delivery. And this is a rather new charging system for notebooks, tablets, smartphones, and more modern devices. Technology based on power delivery uses a USB-C port to charge devices. The great advantage of this solution is that PD allows for fast charging of small devices such as smartphones or wireless headphones, as well as charging of large devices such as notebooks or tablets. And charger and charge device communicate, and each time a device is connected to the charger, the maximum power with which the equipment can be charged is determined, and the adequate voltage is determined too. And large PD adapters can charge with up to 20 volts and 5 amps, what is 100 watts. For example, this would be such a large device. So you can simply plug in many PD capable devices to your PD adapter, like this one, via USB-C, and it will be charged. Check this out now. Here's the power supply of my notebook. It can deliver 20 volts, 15 volts, 9 volts and 5 volts, maximum 65 watts. And this PD charger, or is it that large one, can even deliver up to 96 watts and different voltages. And this USB PD adapter has two PD USB-C ports, which can deliver 12 volts and 20 watts. So not strong, but that's already enough for charging small LiPo batteries. And this tiny power supply with USB PD can only deliver 11 volts and 25 watts. And it should also work with a charger and work with charging smaller LiPo batteries. And the large one I showed you in the beginning, wow, even can go up to 100 watts. And normally I need for all my chargers a power supply. I have large chargery power supplies with up to 400 watts if I charge many Heli LiPo batteries in parallel, or I use my ISTT small power supply, super silent, I love it. But if I charge the small LiPo batteries of my microcrawlers, normally I do this in my living room or on my desk here, I don't need and want all this equipment. And for this tiny B6neo charger from SkyRC, I do not need a special power supply or a battery if I want to charge smaller batteries or few batteries. I can simply plug it to the USB PD power supply, which I have around everywhere for charging smartphones, fans, tablets, headphones, my notebook. But of course you have to take care and choose a power supply with adequate power. The B6neo can charge up to 200 watts, but therefore it needs a power supply or a LiPo battery, which can deliver 200 watts, of course. PD power supplies only can deliver up to 100 watts, the larger ones, and smaller ones far less, as you can see in those 20 and 25 watt power supplies I showed you. And of course you will need adequate wires or USB-C cables for charging. This small thin one will be sufficient for smaller LiPo batteries, but if you really wanna use the 100 watt, you should buy those USB-C cables, which are really large, sturdy, and this goes up to 240 watts even. So the genius thing, however, is I have such a mess here. I will show you with this power supply now, this PD power supply, that I can simply plug different devices into the power supply. So USB-C cable, I connect it to AC power, and here I have the other side, and I can connect it to my smartphone. It will charge my smartphone, and I can connect it to my notebook, which needs much more power. I hope I can show this to you here. Come on. And it will charge my notebook. Here, connected. And I can connect it to many other devices, but the genius thing is I can connect it to the SkyRC B6neo and it will power it up. That's a bit annoying. You have always this warning to start after start, and you see here now 69 watts, 20 volts in, 4.8 amperes. That's with this rather large PD power supply. Let's try it with a tiny one which has only 20 watts USB PD. I will plug it in and connect it to the B6neo, and you see only 19.8 watts, 12 volts in, 1.65 amperes. But as I already told you, of course you can plug XT60 LiPo batteries. 3S is the minimum, I guess, yes, 12 volts or 11 volts to the B6neo and power it up that way. But there is not the message with the voltage, because that's not PD, no communication. And of course I can also connect my normal power supply, for example the ISDT power supply. We'll connect this to the wall and connect it via XT60 port. Come on. And it will work. This is only 160 watts. I could use the larger charger ones, and then it can, this tiny charger, up to 200 watts. Unbelievable. But for the tests now I will use only this super tiny 20 watt power supply to charge the small LiPos and to show you the functions of the Neo. How much watts do we need to charge small LiPos, and what power supply should I need or use at least to charge small LiPos? For example, let's take an SCX24 LiPo. This does have 350 milliamp hours, and I normally charge my LiPos with 1C charging current, what is good for LiPos and for LiPo-Life. If you charge with 2C, 3C, 4C, charging is maybe a bit faster, but batteries will fade away sooner. And 1C for a 350 milliamp hours LiPo means a charging current of 0.35 ampere or 350 milliampere. So I choose 300 or 400 milliampere on my charger, and electric power in watts is voltage multiplied by electrical current. So an SCX24 LiPo charged with 400 milliamps will need 0.4 by 8.4 volts. That's the end of charge voltage of a 2S LiPo. And 0.4 by 8.4 are 3.36 watts only. Maximum. But if you take the nominal voltage of a 2S LiPo, that's 7.4 volt, 2.96 watts only. So you see, you do not need large power supplies to charge all your tiny LiPos. That's less than 3 watts, and I'm still not sure which voltage to use for this calculation, nominal or end of charge voltage. Some people seem to do it that way, others the other way. And larger LiPos, of course, will need more watts. For example, a 2S 5000 milliampere LiPo. What is this one? Okay, that's only 4000, but 5000 very common in 1 to 10th Corollas. It will need about 40 watts if you charge it with 1C. And a 3S 5000 milliamp hours LiPo will need about 60 watts. So you should not charge those large LiPos, which with the tiny power supply I used now, but with this 100 watt power supply or 96 watts, you can even do this with the USB PD system. And this is why the Neo is perfect and so cool for charging LiPos of microcrawlers, which do normally use super small LiPos, 2 or 3S LiPos with 300 to maybe 600 milliamp hours. And that's why I love the B6neo. It's tiny, and it simply can plug into any PD power supply and charge a tiny microcrawler LiPo. But of course, the B6neo has many more cool features besides being able to be powered by a PD power supply. It's an awesome little charger. I will show you all the functions now. Super, super tiny, super easy to use, and this is also a LiPo tester, and you can use it as power supply for or with different voltages out. That's super, super cool. And here you can see the technical data of this little charger. It can be powered by DC voltage from 10 to 28 volts, and the PD 3.0 output or input is 12 to 20 volts. So 5 volts is not enough, of course, and discharge wattage 24 watts maximum. If you use a larger power supply or a large LiPo, 200 watts, but with PD powering only 80 watts, with 20 volts and 5 ampere, but that's enough for all of our microcrawler LiPos, and even enough for a 3S 5000 milliamp LiPo if you charge it with 1C. And it can do all kinds of batteries you can think of. I will show you those to you in the system. And it can charge up to 20 amps, 0.1 amp up to 20 amps, and discharge, but you shouldn't use those tiny chargers for discharging. Normally I don't like this, they get so hot. 0.1 to 2 amps if you discharge regularly, as I do by a discharger. And balance currents is super high, up to 500 milliamps. And handling is super easy, and I will show you the menu now and all the functions. And what I completely forgot, of course, you can power the charger also by a power bank, a PD capable power bank like this Blitzwolf power bank. So same story, takes a little bit, warning message, and you see here 12 volts, 19.8 watts by this power bank. So that's also quite cool. Let's connect it to the small power bank, this one with only 20 watts again. Warning message, 3 buttons, up, down, enter, enter. You see if you connect it to a PD power supply, the voltage and the watts. So that is a weak power supply. If you connect the LiPo battery, I will connect this one. That's a 4S, of course I wouldn't charge it with this tiny power supply. Now you have to press enter, and then you see already the data. The LiPo does have 15.1 volts now. It's a 4S LiPo, and it's not charging. If you press up, you will see the voltages of each cell and the difference. And if you press down, you get to the start display again. And if you press the enter button once, you see LiPo 4S, balance charge 4.2 volt. But the most important thing, the only thing you really have to adjust is the amperage, because cell count or S, it recognizes automatically. And of course that's a 1400 milliamp hour 4S Heli battery. I wouldn't charge it with 3 amps. I would charge it with 1S. So press this again, and I would charge it with 1C, what is 1.4 amp here now. And then you have to go to start, what I will not do now with this tiny battery. I will show you all the functions now of the charger, the charging functions. So start display, if you go in if you press the center button, you can see battery type LiPo. You can choose LiPo, lithium ion, lithium Fe, high voltage LiPo, and nickel metal hydride, nickel cadmium, and PB. Most of us will mostly charge normal LiPos. Then you have the cell count, 4S from the last battery, but it will recognize the cell count automatically. You can also adjust it in the menu, 1S, 2S, 3S, 4S, 5S, 6S. The balance port is only for 6S. Okay, and what tasks can you do? As in most chargers, in most modern chargers, balance charge, that's what we will do normally. Charge without balancing, storage, and it storages automatically to 3.8 volts. What you cannot change here. And discharge to 3.3 volts, so that's not very low. but you can change this down to 3 volts, but it's not for totally discharging batteries before disposing those, and discharge current 2 amps, that's much too high. Those tiny chargers will do very hard, and years ago I even destroyed a charger because I tried to discharge it, to discharge a larger battery with a tiny charger. 2 amps, okay, but if you want to discharge, go as low as possible, because all this energy has to be transferred to heat, and for those tiny chargers that's not really good. So we have discharge, and that's it. Discharge, storage, charge and balance charge, as every normal modern charger does have. LiPo battery 4.1 volt. You can even change the settings. Maybe you want 4.21 volts for your normal LiPo or less, 4.18, 4.19. Charge current, super important, as I already told you. 1C is always the milliamp hours in amps, so a 500 milliamp hours battery with a capacity of 500 milliamp hours charging with 1C is 0.5 amps or 500 milliamps. And start. That's it. Come on, I want to go back, and that's the start screen. What you see if you connect your battery, you will see the data. But first let's go into the menu, and therefore you have to press the center button for a long time, and then you can go to the system settings. So you have factory settings. That way you can go back to factory settings, or you can reset your charger to factory settings. I won't do this now because I changed the screen parameters also. You can use it as battery meter, what's quite nice. I will show this to you later. As DC power supply, what is super nice. I will show it to you also later. And you can go into the system settings, and here you can change the languages. Not a lot of languages. English, several Asian languages, German and French. So I could change to German, and then you have Sprache Deutsch, minimale Spannung 11 Volt, LCD Licht hoch, Lautstärke schwach, Signalton Ende. But I assume most of you prefer English. And then you can set the minimum input voltage, and this is a very important point. If you use a LiPo battery as power source for the charger, you should set the minimum input voltage according to the S or the cell count of your LiPo. For example, this is a 4S LiPo which has 16.8 volts, and 4 cells, I would say 3.2 is okay per cell if I really only want to use this for charging and it's safe. So 4 times 3.2 is 12.8. So I would set it, if I use this 4S LiPo, to 13 volt minimum input voltage. So I can charge smaller batteries with this larger battery without having to take care if this battery will be discharged too low, because the charger will stop. Then you have LCD backlight, high, it comes middle and low, but that's factory settings is middle. I prefer high. Then you have the volume, you can switch it off, what's okay. Low is okay for me too, and middle and high, that's annoying. So for me low is okay. And you can change the completion signal, so end of charge. You can change from 1 to repeated signals. So once it beeps and that's it, and repeat, it beeps many times, what's quite annoying if you are in a other room. so I prefer the ones. And then you have the back, and that's it. System info, I forgot to show you system info. That's hardware version, firmware version, and of course system upgrade. You can upgrade this charger. Don't know how to do this now. I think there are no upgrades available so far. It's brand new. And back, and here we are again in the start menu. I only will show you how to charge a tiny battery now, and then I will show you the battery checker and tester function and the power supply function. So of course, if you charge small batteries, like for example the SCX24 batteries, you will need an adapter to XT60. I really like to use this board for all this stuff. With this board I can charge all my small 1 and 2S tiny LiPos, and even in parallel for the planes. So I use this and charge the SCX24 LiPo only by using the balance port. I did make a video how to do this, but maybe that's too complicated, because not all of you have seen this video. Let's charge a tiny LiPo with a balance plug and an adapter. I don't have an adapter here right now from the JST PH plug to XT60. So let's plug in this 2S LiPo SCX24 size power plug and balance plug, and what you see is LiPo 2S balance charge, and what you don't see here is the amps, and that you will have to set. So press once LiPo 2S, that's okay, balance charge 4.2 volt, but I of course do not want to charge this tiny battery with 1.4 amps. That's 3C, sorry. I want to charge it only with 500 milliamps. That's safe. Okay, and then you have to go to start. So don't forget to change the ampere, the current settings, to appropriate settings for the LiPo. I do not recommend to charge it with 2C, what would be 1 amp or 900 milliamps for this. I don't recommend it. I know many do it, but me not. And then start. And now it started. And you see the voltage and the amps. I set it to 500 milliamps. And it's charging with 0.51, 0.52 amps, 4 watts, so no problem. And you see the milliamp hours that have already been charged, 3 now. The fan works quite often, that's the only thing I don't really like. And if you press this button, you can see the 2 cells. That's a super old LiPo, maybe 10 years, 8 years for sure, I guess. Nearly 10 years, and you see 4.0 volts on one cell and 3.99 volts on the other cell now. And you can see the inner resistance of the cells here too, 0.52 milliohm and 0.55, 107 milliohm. That's already a super old battery, but it still works. And that's the power of the power supply I use. And we are on the start screen again, and now we are on 8.03 volts, but I will stop this now because I don't want to charge it to the end. So that was everything, and that's super easy. As I told you, tiny 3S LiPo. Let's do it again. That's only 180 milliamp hours. of my microplanes, and I also use those sometimes for microcrawlers. So plug it in, and you see the 3 cells, 3.9, 3.899, 3.898 volts. It does not yet show the inner resistance, but what we want to do and what is super important in those tinies, 3S, okay, it recognizes the 3 cells, balance okay, 4.2 volts, but 0.5 amps, 2.5 C, I don't want to do this. I would charge those. Okay, okay, 0.2, it's 180 milliamp hours. Okay, and then I go to start. And now it started, 2 watts, charged 0 milliamp hours so far. If I press this once, you see the 3 cells, and now you can also see the inner resistance. Wow, that's quite really high in this battery, but it's super tiny and also very old. You can simply press this button or that button to go back, to get into stop, no. To get into the cell menu, you have to press the plus button, and to get back you can go back or have to press the minus button. It charged already 3 milliamp hours now, but I will stop this now. And I will show you the cell check function. If it's not powered, you can simply use it for testing the cell voltage. That's a 4S LiPo again. So here you can see 3.7, 3.6 of this 4S LiPo, Heli LiPo, volts per cell, 15.05 volts. That's perfect. It was on charging voltage, 3.8 volts per cell. But that's everything you can do when you don't power it. And now I will show you the super nice DC power function. You get to them in the system settings, but you can also, I didn't show the task parameters so far. You can change safety timer and the maximum capacity of the LiPo that has to be charged. Trickle charge and holding voltage, I don't really know what this is. We have already been in the system settings. And here is this super nice DC power function. And there you can set the voltage you want. And it goes from, do it faster, 5 volts up to, and that's quite unbelievable or hard to believe. Come on, you see, I can go up to 27 volts, and this works. And you can also determine the maximum amperage that the output will deliver, and then you have to go to press start, and then you have the output. You see it increases now. Up to 27 volts, and that's really a super nice function. I want to stop it now. And what's not so super nice, you have always to go back to DC power and then change the voltage. So it will even increase the voltage. The input is only 20 volts now from the power supply, and then again you can change the ampere, the maximum ampere settings, and then you have to press start again, and then the output will be changed. But that's super nice for testing several different devices, motors or whatever. It would be nicer if you could simply, as in my lab power supply, increase the voltage that way, but that's not possible. Battery meter I did already show you, factory settings, system info, and system upgrade and back. What I did not show you so far, yes, I want to stop this. You can also set a lot of different values for different battery types. For example, if you go to nickel metal hydride, you can cycle those and repeak those different types of cycling and discharge those too. And also for example, lead batteries, you can select, oh come on, (3S) or (6S), and you can several different charging types can be set. But that's not so important for most of us. Most of us will only use it for normal LiPo charging, this tiny SkyRC B6neo charger. Yeah, and that's it for this video. And still, this USB-C port, PD in, that's so awesome. This tiny charger can do everything every modern normal charger can do. So not only charging, also a little bit of testing. But the super cool thing, if it would be your first charger, for example, if you buy an SCX24 or an FCX24 or a Hobby Plus Microcrawler or a TRX4M, then normally you won't use the charging devices, the USB chargers that come with a truck, the ready to run set, or you will use it, but you want to upgrade to be able to change all those settings. And normally you will have to buy a charger with, most people actually nowadays buy chargers with built-in power supply, which they can plug to the wall, to the AC current. But I don't want to do this anyway, I don't have one. Or you have to buy a charger which needs a DC power supply or a battery. But with the SkyRC B6neo, you don't have to do this probably, because probably you will have from your new notebook, if it's quite modern, or even you bought some of those wall chargers already which can do PD, and that way you can charge your small LiPos super easy. You only need this small charger, any PD power supply with minimum 12 volts, and of course you have to make adapters. But this you will have to do with any charger you buy, because all normal chargers do have either banana plug out or XT60 out, some even XT30, but there I don't know any larger chargers which have a lot of functions which do come with, for example, JSTPH out, what is the SCX24 LiPo type. That's that plug. So you will have to make an adapter XT60 to whatever you need, or you make an adapter as I showed you in one video and charge all your 2S LiPos simply by the balance plug. What's super convenient. And I really love it because of this, the SkyRC B6neo, this new charger. By the way, different colors should be available soon too. That's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next video. I'll be back.